Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you very much, Faith. Good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, happy Women's Day to everyone joining us today. I'd just like to firstly say thank you to everyone for joining us today for Empower Her 2024, where we'll be looking at the holistic woman's journey. And my name is Anati Gobese, and I am the marketing and community manager for Maloba Consulting. And I am incredibly excited to be your host for today's incredible event. And I just want to say that as we are here to celebrate Women's Day, we are focusing on empowerment. We're focusing on women empowerment. We're focusing on growth and with the unique journeys that each and every single one of us have to undertake in various aspects of life, whether it be financial, leadership, entrepreneurship, corporate, as well as personal wellness. And with that being said, today we have an exciting lineup for you. I must say, I am also very much in particular excited for that. And we have an exceptional lineup of speakers who will be sharing with us their insights and also their experiences with us. And each session that we have will provide valuable insights and also valuable tools that each and every single one of us can be able to take to our different various spheres of influence. But before we dive into today's sessions, or rather different sessions that we're having for you, I just want to encourage everyone, as you have seen, please connect with each other. Today is not just about getting to learn from one another, it is more than just getting to know one another. It is also about connecting with one another and making sure that we continue these conversations even long after today. So if you just joined and you did not participate in the earlier engagement we had, please connect with us by dropping your LinkedIn URL on the chat box. So please share with us your social media handles, whether it be Instagram or Facebook or even LinkedIn, where everyone can just connect with you. So I'm just going to give a brief moment to everyone who did not engage with us to please just share on the chat box. And also I would like to encourage each and every single one of us to, if you are able to, please turn on your video so that we can be able to have a more dynamic engagement as we continue with today's event. So if you can please turn on your video if possible, and also share with us your LinkedIn URL so we can connect with one another. Great. I see people are connecting. Nice to see beautiful faces. Yes, I see you, Lena, there. I see you, Sivanati, as well. Beautiful. See you, Bunolo. Sarah, I see you. If everyone is able to, yes. Hi, Miriam. Yes, I see you as well. Oh, here's Faith as well. Great. Thank you to everyone who's able to open their videos as we continue with today's sessions. And let us move right along. Okay, so before we dive into today's sessions, I just want to also encourage everyone who's connected, as we have people who are connected as well on LinkedIn. We are also live streaming on LinkedIn and our YouTube channel as well. So if you are connected on those platforms, please do engage and participate with us. So you're welcome to engage by dropping comments in our comment sections, even on the chat box here, as we're having conversations, as we're engaging with one another. Our chat box or our comments on our lives or on LinkedIn and our YouTube channel as well. And with that being said, I just want us to start things off today. And I would just like to have our first speaker for today. And we have none other. Hello, can everyone hear me? I think there was just a technical glitch.
Yes, you went away for a while, but you can hear you now.
Oh, great. Thank you very much, Siva, for that. Sorry for that. I think there's a technical glitch somewhere. But as I said, I just want to kick things off for today. And I just want to introduce our first incredible speaker, which is none other than Sivanati Boy herself. And we have Sivanati who will be sharing with us expertise on empowering security, giving strategic insights as well for success as influence or spheres of influence. And I feel like I have a term that I call her. I call her the financial bunny. So if everything just as we have fitness bunnies, financial, if you need any strategy for that, she is and take over for me. So Sivenati, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Anati. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. Good afternoon, everyone. Please let me know if my audio goes. Please just stop me if my audio goes. For today's session, I'd like to actually do a presentation. I'd like to show a presentation. Please let me know when it's showing.
Yes, it's showing from my side.
Thank you so much. Again, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and gentlemen, if there are any, and happy Women's Day. I'd like to start off my session today with a video.
The bottom line is no one's coming. No one. No one's coming to push you. No one's coming to tell you to turn the TV off. No one's coming to tell you to get out the door and exercise. Nobody's coming to tell you to apply for that job that you've always dreamt about. Nobody's coming to write the business plan for you. It's up to you. And because you're only ever going to do the things that you feel like doing right now or that feel good right now, unless you understand that you've got to parent yourself, you got to push yourself.
Thank you so much, guys. So, the message in the video is no one is coming, and I don't know if it evoked anything in anyone, but when I listened to it, I realized that I need to start doing stuff, you know? Um, and yeah, I hope someone else also in the audience took that away. I know this is a woman empowerment and no one wants to start it off with a no one is coming, but I hope every now and again, we need that little bit of a push to let you know that keep up with the momentum, you know, keep going. Uyimbokodo, all of that. So I want to thank everyone first for coming here. And I'd like to believe that each and every woman that's here today has a vision, you know. You see yourself somewhere, you see the life that you want to actually live, the business that you want to get into, the soft life that you want. And I hope today's session could add value, could add a one more piece to the puzzle so that you can get closer to the fuller picture. So I am Sivinati. I know I don't look anything like that picture at the moment. I'm a mom to a 3-year-old toddler. And that's the reason why, you know. I'm sitting in my sitting area at the moment, and she's home because it's holidays, and I'm scared half to death that she's gonna come out running at any point. So in case, but I think this is a safe space because it is a women's session, so these things happen. But yeah, so what I do, I'm a financial advisor, and what I do looks different with every client that I meet. Each and everyone comes with a unique situation, and that's how I help. But the general things that I within the scope of my work is risk management. It is investments, it is tax planning, it is estate planning, it is retirement planning. So I work across those borders to give solutions to my client, whatever that means to them. But the ultimate thing, the ultimate goal is this big aha, you know, this big. One of my clients said to me, no, Sivam, before I started off with you, every time I go to therapy, she goes to therapy frequently, you know. This lady is very serious about her health and her finances. If that doesn't is not clear yet. But she says to me, you know, Sive, ever since I've joined my therapy sessions, the one thing that I always talk about, or I always used to talk about, was money. Money this, money that, money this, money that. Oh, I don't have this and that. But now after our sessions, I'm starting to deal with the actual traumas that I have. It's no longer, the sessions are no longer based on money this and money that, but it's actual problems that I have. And that's what I want to give to my clients. I give my clients the opportunity to, I would like them to actually just focus on what they do best, be their best selves, and not have to worry about their finances. Know that their finances are taken care of. And that's basically what I offer my clients. So it's very hard to come in a group setting and speak about finances because finances are not size one fits all. I have had clients that come to me and say, "Oh, Siva, I have investment property. Let's look at it. In your session, you spoke how good it is, and I've started doing that, but it's not working out." So investment property in itself is a good investment, right? But how you structure it is different. So what I'm getting at is that it's very hard giving advice in a bigger platform because it might not apply the same to each and every person. So how you structure your finances needs to be in line with who you are, your risk profile, your risk tolerance, your appetite, what you have. So I'm going, and I know most of the women in this in the audience, it's women that know that are into business. So you know your budgets, you know that you need to track your expenses, you know that you need to plan and whatnot. And doing it, if you are doing it, that's a totally different story. But I know you guys know. So I'm gonna try to, be a little bit more practical with today's session, and give some practical examples. Starting off, just recently, this is one of our legends, if I might call her, Zahara. Zahara is now deceased, but yet there's a 3 million tax debt that is targeting her estate, at the moment. So I wanted to start off with those practical examples that are happening. We have Makadzi, who was recently awarded, an international award, but she came also on social media saying she had to go to loan sharks, to actually travel and go and collect her award, which is quite sad, hey, because she's been doing pretty well, and she says that she just didn't have enough information about SARS and tax and everything. We have Miss Lira. Miss Lira recently suffered a stroke, which slowed down her business. Her business is revolves in her having a voice to sing, and entertain. However, the stroke took away that, and it took away her ability to actually earn money, and perform, do what she actually does. So I wanted maybe to start the conversation from this point, and I want to. I'm going to focus on one specific tool. You can use it in so many ways, but I want to focus on one specific tool that no one normally talks about, and that's life insurance. And I hope Rosemary's name doesn't pop in your head when I speak about life insurance. Or some people it's gonna be funeral cover, some people it's gonna be your scams, some people it's gonna be your it doesn't pay out, right? And I know that, and I think maybe we ought to have more conversations around this topic. We So that they can actually work for us. So life insurance is quite bigger than just funeral covers. You also get benefits while you are still alive. There's something called a severe illness cover, a critical health cover, and in Miss Lira's case, I know on Radio 702 she had an interview, and she spoke about how she was quite comfortable. It wasn't too hectic. The expenses weren't too hectic because she actually had savings. She had her life savings, and they actually paid out for most of the stuff. And we saw that she also traveled during the time when her business, while she was in recovery. But not everyone. First, number one, this means now um, post her recovery. This means that she has taken quite a big chunk of her investments, right? These are her life savings, and it means she's taken quite a big chunk. But also, not everyone who might, be at the risk of having a similar incident has that kind of savings where they're going to be enough for covering, medical bills, that are going to be enough with speech therapy, that are going to be enough because you still have to pay rent, your life still has to carry on, right? Um, Also, for example, in Miss Zahara's case, a 3 million life cover would uh, have done wonders for her. Like uh, they wouldn't be in a she wouldn't be her estate wouldn't be in a position where they have to sell her assets. They have to sell her house now in order to liquidate and get funds to actually pay her debt. So I'm just trying to say that there's insurance, and it can be done if structured correctly. It can be quite a powerful tool in planning for our finances. So I know that costs are very important, and I just wanted to bring this a little bit home because most people think um, when you speak about insurance, it's expensive. So I just wanted to give a little bit of numbers just to, add some meat to the story. And I want the session to be really as practical as possible. So this is a 30-year-old lady. She earns like an average salary. She earns about 8,000 per month. She's a school teacher, music teacher, actually, contract worker, not even permanently employed. So I'm really trying again to make this as practical as possible. She has a life cover, and it's costing her 110. She has something called that absolute protector line. That's a disability lump sum. This is just a picture of a quote that I took. This is an existing client, but I just wanted really to make this as practical as possible and give you actual numbers. A 300,000 disability protector she pays only 20 rand, less than 20 rands for it. And should she be injured and can't come to work for the next few months, an insurance can pay her 8,000 on a monthly basis for 74 rands to replace her income because life still has to happen. And again, if she had a similar story to Miss Lira, she could have gotten maybe 300,000 lump sum, and she would have paid about 70 rands for that. I'm trying to show that life insurance can be quite an efficient tool, and it's not as costly as people think it is. This is a full cover for a person, full risk cover for this client, and she's only paying about 300 rands per month. This is lunch money or even less, hey? You can't go out for a night out with 300 rands, but it can do so much for your life. I'm going to bring it a little bit closer because I know I'm sitting here with entrepreneurs, people who are starting up businesses, people who are aspiring to start up businesses. And I want to bring it a little bit closer and speak about business assurance. So when you're starting off a business or you're scaling your business or you're in the growth stages, somewhere, somehow you end up getting, sourcing some funds, and sometimes you borrow money from the bank to actually source those funds. But what happens in a situation where So in a business, the biggest risk is that you are still a person and you are susceptible to every risk that a normal person is susceptible to. So normally a business is structured if you end up in a situation where you have to borrow money from a bank to finance your business somewhere or another. Normally what banks do is that they do something called a surety agreement. So now surety agreement says that normally says that in the instance that the company can't pay back or is defaulting somehow, we are going to go to the owners of the company. And the owners in this case is you and your friend, or you alone, you or your business partner. The bank says we're going to go to you and you will be personally liable for the debt, right? And so I just want to introduce another point of how insurance can be used in a business setting as well. So we have an example. This is a company and you are owner number 1 and your friend 2 and 3. You take $500,000 from the bank and you sign a surety agreement with a bank that you will be personally liable for the money should something happen. Owner number 2 passes away or becomes disabled, and now it triggers the surety agreement. And normally in terms of that surety agreement, the bank can immediately come to owner number 1, which is you, and owner number 3 and say, listen, I want you to pay the full debt. Or they can even come to owner number 2's estate now, the deceased estate, and ask for the money there. Liquidate, as in Ms. Zahara's case, sell the houses and everything, and the beneficiaries or the people that were meant to get inheritance do not get anything. So we have insurance for that can be used to actually help in such situations. So for example, we can have a contingency plan where policy number 1, where owner number 1, 2, and 3 are all insured for the 500,000 plus tax, which is in this case will be estate duty. They have to put in the, I don't want to complicate this a lot, but when you die, SARS taxes you and they tax you on everything you own. And so if you have this policy, they'd add it to your estate and calculate your estate duty payable, which is your tax payable. And so this policy will have to also include stuff like that. And also any interest on the amount. So if owner number 2 dies and there is this policy in place, this policy will pay out to the debt to the creditor. There's no more debt. There's no more surety agreement. Everything is fine. And if there's any excess, it can be used at the discretion of the owners, right? Powerful tool, because should owner number 2 pass away and owner number 1, 2, and 3 do not have 500,000, because you are in Ramaphosa's economy, then you get the kind of problem that you have. This is how businesses go into business rescue, because now they have to sell everything. They also are personally liable, and they have to pay the money, they have to sell property and whatnot and whatnot. So just a policy of 300 rands, a life cover of 100 rands can do that much of work and efficiency. There's so much more covers out there, especially in business. There's your buy and sell agreements, there's your key person agreements, there's your employee incentives where you have an investment that's going to vest in 5 years time, mature in 5 years time, for yeah. But what I'm trying to say, there's so much, but it depends how it is structured. It's not one size fits all. And financial advice is not expensive. That's what I'm trying to say. So with this, I hope you guys can see, I hope you can take this tool of insurance as not a tool for just funeral expenses, but that it can be used as collateral, and it can go a long way, especially in your business. So with that being said, um, I want to wish you guys a happy Women's Day. And on that note, I also want to just take a moment and allow, sorry, if so, for Women's Day, I just want to give women the opportunity to actually do their financial planning. With me, I'll be giving out to everyone in the audience free financial planning sessions at no cost, no obligations. You see what can work for you, from risk management to retirement planning, estate planning, all of that. So if you scan this QR code, it takes you to a form where you can just uh, put your details so that I can contact you. I'm going to end my session on this, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to address. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sivenati, for such an insightful session. I must say I was honestly truly helped greatly. And I see now why the term fits you more, financial bunny. I see it's working. So I see now it's definitely your thing. Thank you very much. I believe everyone, I could see that people are actually taking everything you're saying in. So I truly believe that everyone has truly been helped. And you know, one thing I liked was when you said that finances are not one size fits all, meaning that we truly need people like yourself to actually help us, and that we may engage in further conversations about these, because there was this one particular point where we said that if structured correctly, insurance can actually really help us in managing our finances. And I believe that is something that we all aspire to do, which is being able to be financially responsible. So I would just like to thank you as well. Thank you very much as well for the offer of offering free financial advice. So everyone in the audience, whether you're connected LinkedIn, YouTube, or whether it's Zoom currently, please do take up the offer and scan that QR code. And yeah, we will personally engage with you further. And now, before we move further along, if there's anyone who has a question based on what Sivenati said, feel free to actually engage either on the comments, or you can raise your hand and someone from our support team will be able to take note of you, and then you can ask your question.
Thank you, Anati.
Great. I see Faith already has her hand raised up. Yes, Faith, you can say something. Yes.
Hi, thank you so much. I absolutely love talk about money because it's so taboo in the African culture. So yeah, so my question is, I think I'm very interested in the stories that you started with the different celebrities. So one of my things is that in my Khatsi's situation, obviously she signed a few contracts with her music producer. So where would you guys kind of come in for a person like that who doesn't have the financial literacy, but they're entering a financial agreement with somebody? Would you advise somebody to first seek advice from financial advisor, or be accompanied by one to go and sign this contract or something like that? I know it's a little bit of a short left that I'm doing, but I'm very curious, because a lot of people, not only in musicians, but a lot of people tend to sign these contracts without anybody advising them on the financial implications of these contracts and what they mean in the long term. So I'm very curious, would you fit in there somehow to kind of be like the stoplight of some sort? Yeah, I'm curious.
Thank you so much for the question. Thank you so much for the question, Faith. You know, the code that I pulled up is one of my existing clients. And this is the client. She's actually about to travel, so she needed a lot of money. And she called me, Sive. I'm not in the credit providing space or anything, but she calls me, Sive. I am about to take a loan. These are my options. What do you think? So uh, it's a different situation, but she will call me for every little thing that is like that. And we sit down and we actually look which one has a better net present value and which one is more beneficial for her. So in answering your question, when do you come in? When the client needs us to come in, when the client picks up that call and says, listen, I have this and I need your financial expertise on this. I sit in my team, I sit with a risk specialist, I sit with a tax specialist, and I sit with an investment specialist. So I mean, come on, if you have that backing, anytime you need it, this is your financial advisor. We've signed an agreement anytime. So I think it's just that people don't pick up the phone and say, listen, I need your advice. And we do calculations, and not only calculations, but we see what your priorities are, what is important to you, and what do you need now. Yeah. So whenever they pick up that call phase, that's the only way we can come in. And if it's post, if it's a situation where um you meet up with the person and they already have these things in place, even if they pose any risks to the person, we sit and we actually see how we can mitigate the risk, what we can have. So you can always have insurance at a later stage than your actual contract or whatever vehicle you'll use to mitigate the risk. So at any point, we'll just see what is at our disposal at that point, what options we have at that point, and try and see how we can mitigate any risks possible.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Faith, for that question. It's a very great question. And I would just like to also ask if there's any other question before we move right along. So I'm going to give a few minutes, a few seconds actually, for anyone who might. Oh, I see Sarah. Sarah, please ask your question.
Hi.
Take it away.
Sorry,
Yes.
no, I don't have a question. Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask if Siva can please put up the QR code again.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank
yes.
you.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for that.
Can you see it?
Yes, yes, you can.
Yes, thank
So I'm going to give you a few seconds just for anyone who did not capture the code, take out your phone and make sure that you do capture the code and engage with Sivenati as well. And you know, one thing that I liked as well when you were speaking is how you kept on saying that pick up that call, and meaning that this is something that we really need. Yes, pick up the call and make sure that you engage with people like Sivenati here, our financial bunny, people who actually know things that you need to know about financial management and financial security as well. As we are people who are in various spheres of influence, it is imperative that we have such people that we engage with to help us manage our finances as well. So I just really took this session as something very insightful, but also very strategic to help us to be able to succeed even further than we are already. And if that is all, I would like us to just move right along with the second session of today's event. And now we have none other than Lina Kasiem, and Lina will be speaking with us from an investment or an investor perspective, and she will be interacting with speaking rather about interacting with female founders as an investor. Now, Lina, just briefly on Lina, Lina has a wealth of experience in the investment space and understands very much the unique challenges that female founders face when it comes to actually trying to secure funding, whether it's in the initial phases of their businesses or it's in any other phase of the businesses. So she'll be bringing in a female founder as well to also give us and enrich our perspective as well, and also give us more perspective on this matter at hand. So I would encourage everyone who's connected to please think of any questions that you would like to ask in the meantime, and make sure at the end of the session you do ask your question in the chat box or you raise your hand as you've seen before. And without any further ado, please help me welcome Lina Kasiem. Lina, take it away.
Thank you, Nati. Can you please bring forth Mariam Amidou? She is what I will say more of the expert. Yes, I'm talking from the investor perspective, but hello to everyone. I thought for this session, it would be more insightful to have a conversation rather than just, me talking with a female entrepreneur, so you get both sides. Mariam has a hard stop, so I'll be respectful of your time. And I'll go right into it before I get into my own spiel. So Anati did a good intro of me. I won't bore you with additional details. LinkedIn does the rest of it. So Mariam, I will have you introduce yourself. So how would you introduce yourself to this group of women?
Yeah, thank you so much. And it's honestly such a pleasure to be here. I'm Mariam Hamidou. I'm the co-founder and CEO of T40 Technologies. We are an operating system for intercity transport and logistics bus companies. So we provide them with an enterprise solution to optimize their operations, to optimize their revenue forecasting, to optimize their fleet management, team management as well, and their station management. We also provide a marketplace for everyone to access predictable, reliable, and safer transportation. And we're doing this currently in West Africa.
All right. Thank you so much, Mayam. Part of why I invited Mayam was because the difference in terms of female entrepreneurship and from my perspective as a female investor is also the sector in which I see women operating. And Mayam is in logistics, in transportation. That's not a space. I was really expecting more, when I was looking at the call for T40, I was expecting the usual, a guy who's going to come in, tell me how he did studies in something engineering and, he found this problem and here we are. So it was with pleasure that I got to see Mariam really explain what her business is about, how she's thought through the solution, which is a big plus. And as a side note, I will say, from my perspective as an investor, women tend to be much better at explaining the problem and at explaining the solution. And part of it is actually the other side of the coin, which is not great for us, is that we tend to be perfectionists. We've thought about it over and over and over and over. So it brings me actually to the next question, Mariam. How did you come upon this problem and wanting to fix it? Walk us through your process.
Yeah. So there are two things, and thank you so much for what you said about women being able to actually explain the problem. Men like to use fancy words. I don't mind it, but it's kind of nice to simplify things as well. So it's a twofold thing. I'm Nigerian by birth, so I was born and raised in Nigeria, but my parents come from Niger Republic and Togo, so very West African. It means I personally and my family, we had to be on the road a lot, right? So vacation, summer, that looked like getting on a bus and going to Togo, getting on a bus and going to Niamey to see family. And the state of things, obviously growing up as a child, it's not something you're aware of, was really bad. That's the easiest way to put it. It's really bad. Transportation, road transportation especially, and in Nigeria, more than 85% of us actually rely on road transportation because we don't have trains. Flights are expensive. It's just in a state of you can't book your tickets online. You don't know when the buses are leaving. Even if you get on the bus, you're not sure you're going to get to your destination when you plan to. So it's not possible for us to plan trips. Now, obviously, growing up as a child, I didn't know all of this. For me, I was just getting on a bus. But then I went on to study architecture and major in urban development. And I took a special interest in sustainable cities. So a lot of the work I've done, and this is my second startup. So previously I co-founded a bike share mobility startup. So I'm very interested in building sustainable cities, ensuring that especially infrastructure that we have that affects the mass public, right? So we're talking about most Nigerians, right? Not everybody has access to flights. Those structures work properly, right? And they're sustainable and they can also live past our generation as well.
Awesome. Great. So like I was mentioning, and I wanted her to answer this question because this is very typical of what I hear when I'm listening to a female entrepreneur. It's like, this is a problem that has been lingering literally sometimes since childhood, even if she wasn't fully aware of the hurdles, but it's been lingering, it's been sitting. There's a theme of her whole life, right? Male are raised to be more risk taker. So usually if it's a serial entrepreneur, you'll see that it's been on one sector the last time and then on a completely different one. We as perfectionists, we want to know, we want to be able to understand everything about our topic. It is good, but I will also, if there's any other woman in the room who's an entrepreneur, I would also say give yourself some grace and some room to breathe. You don't have to be an full expert. So usually it's good to see also that you have launched your venture with a co-founder. Like Mariam has a co-founder, which is very typical as well. I've very rarely seen, if ever, a woman saying, I'm launching this thing by myself. There's usually a co-founder, even if it's another female co-founder, but you definitely see that aspect of complementary in terms of skills, because again, we tend to be more attuned with what we don't have compared to guys, and the use of big words is very true. I listen to about 7 pitches per day, and sometimes I'm just like, can you dumb it down? Talk to me like I'm 7 years old and I don't know about the sector, which is a phrase I don't usually use with female entrepreneurs. But raising money is hard, and it is harder on female entrepreneurs. That's the reality. Part of it is there's not enough of female investors. That's true. And some part of it is obviously perceptions, right? People have different perception on women, especially depending on the sector. And you are, Mariam, in a sector that is very male driven. So I want you to talk through some of the hurdle you faced so far and some of the lessons you've learned.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Also a little bit emotional, right? Because I'm currently in a fundraising round. So I'll say for us, we've been fortunate to have raised already. So we've raised pre-seed. So we've hurdled one storm and we're currently in another one. And I'll break it down to a few things, right? Many times investors want to see who, right? The face behind the brand matters a lot, right? So who is this person? And why are you here? Obviously, you also have to really be able to articulate why you're the best person for this job, right? Why is it Mariam or my co-founder? Why are we the ones, best fit to solve this problem? And I always say, like, for me, right, I don't have a tech background. My co-founder is the technical founder. So he's in charge of like the products and things. But again, I bring a lot to the team in terms of actually understanding the landscape, right? Understanding West Africa a little bit more, understanding the market, but also being like Lena said, and this is a word that sometimes is so taboo, but being really passionate, right, about that change, right? And that's one reason why, at least I personally can articulate for myself why I'm going to win here, right? And that's not something that is very easy for many women to say. Some of the struggles are obviously, as a female, you have to really prove yourself in a way that sometimes your male counterparts wouldn't have to. So you really have to prove yourself. And what I always say is when you do get the opportunity, so like for us, for instance, we've gotten the opportunity with our pre-seed funding, those steps you take in that time to the next funding matters a lot, not just for you, but for other people coming behind you, right? How do you handle your investors? How do you deal with crises when they come up? Because they will. Just because you've raised doesn't mean you're not going to face any issues. Really keeping them up to date. I always say, for me, I'm so proud to, since, for the past 30 months now, I've never missed a single month of investor updates. For some people, that's not, a big deal, but I know confidently that the people that have trusted me enough to invest in my business know exactly what we're doing, know how we're growing. And whenever they have the chance to talk about me to some other investor, they're very confidently able to defend my business, right? Because they literally are able to follow it. So it's really important to take that opportunity. I'm not saying be overly grateful, because again, you do work for what you get. But when you get that opportunity, what you do with it matters, because it really shapes, the future as well. How do you go into future fundraising rounds where people are going to trust you with more money? And also, how do investors now look at other females? Because at the end of the day, it's human beings as well, right? So they will carry a bias and pass it on to other people. So we do have a responsibility in that sense.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. I was going to say, what I would bring forth from my perspective, those monthly updates are critical, whether it's for your current investors or your potential investors, they are absolutely critical. And this is, again, I know, this isn't an empowerment meeting. Female investors do better. Honestly, they do. Like, if I had to look at the updates that I'm getting from the investors, the ones that never miss a month are the female investors, more likely to be female investors. And as much as I love it, obviously, but I know internally it breaks my heart a little bit, because it's also attached to something that Mariam talked about, which is the gratefulness. You don't have to be overly grateful, right? Because when an investor puts in money, it's also because they know they're going to get some money back, right? They're not doing it out of the kindness of their heart. Like, we're not known in the finance world for being, the sweet, gentle people who just give money away. There's a reason why it's done. And I think I want more female entrepreneurs to own it, to own the fact that they've gained that trust really through their sweat, tear, and blood. And it wasn't an easy journey. You don't owe more gratitude to this investor because they said yes, right? You also have to make sure that you do your own due diligence with the investors. The relationship between investor and entrepreneur, I say, is tighter than marriage. Marriage, you can get divorced. Everyone goes on their own route, and here we go. But once someone is on your cap table, this is for life, and they can make your life very, very miserable. So as much as it is harder on female entrepreneurs to raise money, I say take it as a due diligence and a filter, right? So in the interest of time, because I don't want to take too much, I have one last question for you, Mariam, and you can certainly go. I want to know also how you take care of yourself, right, through this journey. What are the things, the practice, the advice you would give for someone in your shoes to make sure that they take care of themselves?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'll give two short answers. Physically, I'll say don't overlook what 30 minutes a day can do for you, right? So 30 minutes a day to do something that is towards your health. So for me now, I'm practicing. So I also 2 years ago had a baby. So I'm practicing, just taking 30 minutes off of everything to do a quick workout, right? But it can look like a walk. It can look like reading a book. It can look like just sitting outside for some fresh air. But don't underestimate what doing 30 minutes over time can actually do for you. It doesn't have to be, 2 hours going very hard in the gym. So that's one thing for practical and physical. Something else is, for me, what I've found is everything I do is so serious, right? If architecture, my startup, all of that, being a mom and a wife, I find time to actually lean into my hobbies. And for some years, actually couldn't even articulate what my hobbies were, but I think I'm finding that again. So finding time in a week. So it can literally just be 30 minutes to 1 hour in a week where I spend time doing something that is literally, not going to give me any money, or maybe it will. But it's just my hobby. It makes me really relax, get my mind off things. And again, I'm saying 30 minutes because 30 minutes is not so much time that something gets lost, but also just enough for you to be able to breathe and relax and really get your mind off things.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Maya. I can let you go. I know you are in a rush. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much. It was really great to be here. Thank you.
So on my end, I will continue with sort of the things that I've noticed listening to pitches from female entrepreneurs. And I would say, first of all, I think we tend to wait too much for the product and everything to be at a certain level of perfection before we approach people. And the reality is the investment game is a long-term game. So you have to build a relationship over a few months before the investor even start thinking about, okay, do I want to put money? How much money do I want to put in? So it's worth it to have the conversation earlier on in your process, right? And build that sort of confidence that you know your market, you've studied it. The reality is, if we were to compare, you have spent the time to study, spend the time to think through your solution and all of that. So make sure that earlier than what you think is the right time, have the different conversations, because you will be able to also get feedback even from the investors earlier on in the process. The second thing, it's okay to demand. You know, it's always very interesting in those conversations to interact, especially things around valuation and things like that. It's okay to demand what you feel is right. It's almost like a salary negotiations. And we'll go on the back and forth. And when I was thinking about this topic of demanding, often the advice that we get is to say, the worst thing you will get is a no. And in digging deeper in it, I realized we are not necessarily afraid of the no. As women, we deal with rejection a lot. What we are afraid of often, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's more of the impact on our reputation, the impact on how we are seen. That for us is worse than actually getting the no. And what I will say is, the worst thing that will happen is really that no, it really doesn't destroy your reputation, our image as much as we think it does. Yes, some people will describe you as difficult. I've been described as difficult. I've been called the B word because I can be very stern, and that's okay. With age, the beauty of aging is also that you're like, not everyone is going to like me. And for those of you who are mothers, there are moments that even your child does not like you. So if you can get over your child not liking you for a couple of hours or for a couple of days, you can get over some stranger or anyone not liking you as well. It's going to be fine. So I think it's more of that we internally have to work on. I've been very lucky to have parents who don't care. Like, you know, both my mom and my dad are people who are like, you don't like them, and they're like, okay, that's fine. I don't know if it's a Cameroonian thing, but building that sort of confidence is something that I really, really push with women, especially younger women. The other point I would bring up before we get into the questions is what Mariam talked about last, taking the time for yourself. The whole African women suffering thing, that's overdue. Our mothers did it, it's fine. They prove it could be done, you know, great. We don't have to do it anymore, right? We have to really make sure that we take care of ourselves. The reality is that as much as in some aspects our lives are easier than our mothers, in many others, the demands have increased, right? We have multiple roles throughout our lives, and sometimes at the same time that we have to live up to. And we don't have to be perfect on all of those roles, but it's really, really important to take some time off. I often start my emails to all the founders, especially in this sort of like season of summer, to say, hey, how are you doing? I hope you've been able to take some time to rest. Rest is not overrated. And a lot of female founders have other roles, right? Whether it's wife, mother, daughters, because even as daughters, we have responsibilities, right? We are the ones that the parents count on more. You know, I always tease my parents where I'm like, my brother literally lives 2 feet from you. But when you need something, you pick up the phone to call me, who I'm like thousands of miles away. How about we change that, right? So even just in that role of daughters, we also have responsibilities. So it's critical to take some time off to recharge, to just be either with yourself or with your friends, just so that it could be your world and just you for a moment. So I'll stop here and I will welcome the questions. If we are on time, Anati, maybe because I'm a talker, so maybe I went over my time.
Thank you very much, Linda. No problem. We're learning a lot. So yeah, we are appreciative of that. We can take some questions if there's anyone who has a question or two. Yes, this is your time. I see Faith is burning. Yes, Faith, you may take it
I'm so
away.
sorry. I'm a female founder. It would have been really
Yeah.
tragic to miss this moment. I think for me, the biggest question for me is, as you can see, I'm obviously more of your sunshine yellow type of personality, which I think does play against me because I do come across as very relaxed and not too serious. So, you know, even when I walk into a room, my colors are always bright, my suits are bright, everything about me is just like, because that's what I do. My whole brand is about, I run a mental wellness brand with fun. So we're educating people about mental wellness because we do want to increase that. We want to normalize people seeking professional help because our parents didn't do it and we're suffering, you know, we're just passing on these traumas. And so for me, I feel like that's why I think I've been a bit scarce when it comes to going to pitch. Because I feel like, you know, as soon as I walk into a room, they were like, this person's not serious. But obviously, those who have met me and worked with me know that I'm hard. I go hard on people when it comes to behavioral changes. I really push you. I take tough love to the next level, you know. I'm serious. So for me, I suppose the question is, how do I know? I know perception, as soon as you walk into a room, people will always have their biases, but how do I still remain authentic to myself and be comfortable in my own skin and still come across to investors, you know, as somebody who's serious about what they do and they're worth investing in? I suppose I want to see how can I balance that in a way that, you know, comes out the right way and shows my integrity. Yeah.
Very good question. And I've heard other female founders like dealing with this. Don't be fooled by the dark hair. This is because I didn't do my hair lately, but I usually have green or some blue. So I hear you on like coming in with colors, right? And even in the US where everyone wears grays, blue, and blah, blah, I would walk in with a bright red blazer. Like it's just my personality. And one thing I've learned, and I don't remember who said this sentence, but show up as yourself so that you can meet your people. Go into those meetings. Go in. Some won't work well because, yes, those people will see the colors and have their own perception, and that's fine. In some ways, you are lucky because you're filtering people already just by showing up as who you are. The price to pay is too heavy when you're not authentic. In terms of your seriousness, it's going to come across because you're going to pitch and we're going to ask you questions, right? We'll see your seriousness through your pitch. We'll see your seriousness through how you answer the question. So as long as you are prepared to talk about your business in a way that shows you are knowledgeable, you are ready, you've done the homework, you're humble enough to get some advice, that's really what's important. But you have to show up as yourself. Because if you get, again, the expression in the US is usually get in bed with those people, it's for life. Like this is a really long term. So you can't fake not be yourself for that long. So show up as yourself, and the people who want to invest, the people who will accept you for who you are. Right. And yes, it may make your journey a bit longer and maybe somewhat harder because of the typical people we have in this industry, but that's okay. Because again, you want to meet your people. You don't just want to take money from anyone at, at any point. You want to be thoughtful about it. There's two people that I would want you, I would want you. I think about personally when I deal with this, because I still have moments where I'm wearing something really bright and I'm going, Lena. Um, but one is the late Madeleine Albright. She was the first female Secretary of State of the US. And in her book, she talks about wearing these bright blue skirt suits because it was expected as a woman she would wear the pantsuit, but she would wear her skirt, and she always had like these brooches, like the big, shiny, colorful brooches on her suit. And that was her trademark. And she actually received comments on it, but chose to never remove those because that was part of her. The second person I think about is Bozoma St. John. I don't know if you know her. She used to be CMO at Netflix. She worked at Apple. She's Ghanaian of origin, and grew up a bit between the US and Ghana. She is, I think, over 6 foot tall, super dark skin, wears like big hair and bright color. I mean, when she enters a room, you know she's entered a room. She has a book called An Urgent Life, and it's really about her saying, I've been this from the moment I was born, and I will continue to be this person that I am. So I sometimes go back to those two women when I'm questioning my choice of attire or my choice of how I speak. I speak with a lot of humor, which can also be seen as, oh, maybe she's not serious. Well, if you want to take life too seriously, good for you. I like to laugh. It's my thing. I look younger than my age. So especially in the African ecosystem, a lot of people are like, my daughter. And I have to be like, not really. But, I know I'm young, but I'm not that young. So not being afraid to correct people as well with a bit of a joke. It's never done with violence. It's more like, I know you uncle, but you're my fun uncle. If you were to be my uncle, be my fun uncle, because I'm definitely older than what you think I am. So yeah, just it's much better to be yourself. The price to pay otherwise is just too high. That's my view.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I love it. I think it's a fresh perspective because most people that I think I've spoken to always say, play the game, conform. And I feel like being inauthentic is like you said, it hurts you in the long run because it's too much emotionally taxing for you to put up this facade for too long, and you forget sometimes because you're a human being. So, and then you look crazy. So I think I'll just continue with my craziness and just be consistent. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Yes. For me, playing the game is showing up to the rooms, because at the end of the day, those rooms are selective. At the end of the day, a lot of those rooms are not made for us, right? As someone who's also lived a long time in the US, like being a Black woman, sometimes they can pick up on an accent because I speak French first before English. So me showing up in the room is playing the game, because otherwise I would just be like, F this, I'm going to build another room. But I showed up in the room, so I played the game. Showing up in the room is going through the motion of the pitch, because that's the game. But I'm not going to show up to the game and not be myself. That's the way I compromise.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Of course. Nice to meet you, Faith.
Wow, thank you very much, Faith, for that great question. I must say it was very interesting to hear the perspective Lena gave. And I must say one particular thing, as you said, that showing up is also participating and playing the game, in fact. So show up, even if you feel like the room might reject you, but all that matters is that you are actually showing up and you are owning the space that you are in at the time. So it's not about conforming to the space, but rather taking up space in the environment that you find yourself in. So I would just like to say that I'm very much also encouraging everyone to just say that wherever you find yourself, whether you might not be a founder per se, you might not be an entrepreneur, but you are still in a space or in a sphere of influence. But it is important that you own the space that you are in and you show up and play the game, playing the game by showing up as yourself. That's all you can do. Thank you very much, Lena. And also thank you to Miriam as well. I don't think she's here anymore, but thank you very much for that fresh perspective and those valuable insights. Thank you, Lena.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
No problem. And without any further ado, we are going to move right along from that session, and we are moving on to our third speaker of the day, which is none other than Egla Ntumba herself. Now, Egla will be guiding us through the female investor part, where she'll be speaking on the perspective, or as a female investor herself, on what it's like to actually become a female investor in Africa, and also what it takes to become a female investor in the African landscape as well. And I don't want to give a description that's a bit summed up, so I'm going to allow her the time to actually introduce herself briefly and right along take on the session. Egla, you can take it away.
Thanks, Anati. Hi, everybody. I was listening to that question that Faith asked to Lena, and as I'm standing here with my bright pink jacket, I started sweating. I'm like, am I doing too much? But I absolutely love that. But I also love Bosima St. John. So when Lena mentioned her, and I was like, wait, yes, I am wearing the pink, because she did tell one story where she was working at Apple as the chief marketing officer, and then they had their big sort of conference, and then she was wearing this bright pink jumpsuit with a beautiful big hair, and Steve Jobs and a few other people had gone ahead of her wearing, you know, the uniform, the plain suits, whatever, and she was standing in the back, and she was thinking to herself, oh boy, do I have time to go change? What should I do? And everything. This is way too bright, the whole room. They're not going to take me seriously. And then she just, decided to go ahead and go out and do her bit and showed up as herself, which is one thing I really, really love about her. So Faith, you're on the good path. Continue. But I think today, my session, I want to talk about dreams, really, actually. I know Anati said, we're talking about kind of my experience as an investor, which it is, but I want to reframe it to say that I want to talk about dreams and discovering what your dream is, but also how hard it is to follow your dream when you're following it. I will tell you about my journey along the way, but I just wanted to mention that so we can hold space to, first of all, be gentle with ourselves along the journey, but also to realize that when you are chasing that dream and you are following that thing, you need to have a really clear vision of what you're following so that when it gets really hard, you can continue going, right? So maybe to start from the beginning. So originally I'm Congolese, so grew up in DRC, was very much, when I was growing up, was very much a patriarchal society, as most African societies are, very much the men sort of holding the means of production and capital, and women very much not having that as well. So a lot of the women around me and just really around in the community turned to business to become financially independent and to build something. And I started to realize, and I know this now looking back, and that's why I want to talk about dreams and identifying your dream. I know this now looking back, but back then I wasn't aware that these women were building these incredible businesses that were able to send their children to school, were able to buy houses and do these incredible things. But those businesses never went beyond maybe being the little restaurants on the corner of the community that everybody goes to. It never became a KFC chain or a McDonald's chain or an institutional legacy that these women could pass down to their children. And that always bothered me. And I always wondered, why is that? What is happening here that is not making this possible? Spoiler alert, I still don't really have all the answers, but I'm working towards figuring that out. So that's the context that I grew up in. So I had a really, really early start in entrepreneurship. My mom had Congolese, moved to South Africa, where I grew up for most of my life. Grew up in this entrepreneurial kind of environment. And when I was really young, sort of started helping my mom in her sort of fast growing consumer retail store. I did that for maybe 8 years. I actually took some time sort of in between university and going to high school and university, the other way, and to do that full time for a little bit, to just figure, and I found that really dynamic and really interesting. And just to speak on dreams again, at that point, and the reason why I had even taken a gap year between sort of high school and university is because I got really confused. So, you know, some people, you know, have all the clarity in the world and know exactly what they want to do. I thought I had the clarity. I wanted to go into finance, which later on turns out I did go into finance. But at that time, I got really confused because I thought, oh, psychology sounds really interesting. Oh, but finance is also interesting. Oh, but what about politics? Oh, but what about being a lawyer? So all of these things, and I'm like, oh, I could do all of these things. So because of that, I got really confused. And I thought, let me just take some time and pause and just gather myself. So in that time when I paused to gather myself, I was actively involved in entrepreneurship, really dynamic, really exciting. But then I realized as we were, you know, sort of doing every day, we had books and we were filling them in. And I thought to myself, why do we do this? This is very weird. Why do we have books? What do these numbers mean? Why do we have to input numbers all the time? And then I realized, oh, light bulb, I should probably find these answers at school. And that's when I decided I was ready to decide what to study. And then I decided to study finance. And then when I studied finance, I did my undergraduate degree. And then as part of the finance course, you do financial planning, and then I realized that all of these other things, you know, financial planning, like these things make sense to me. Tax, okay. And then when we go to the investment part and the financial engineering part, you know, stock exchanges and all of these things, I was very confused. I was like, what is going on here? I don't understand. I need more answers. So I decided that's what then made me decide to pursue investment management as my honors degree. So again, following that curiosity, and then I did that. And then, you know, as anyone who studied finance knows, they all herd you towards banking or consulting. So I went into banking and actually joined sort of an international bank called Standard Chartered Bank on the credit analysis team. And back then it didn't make sense, but I guess now it makes sense to me why I needed to do that. But basically, I was on the corporate credit team assessing the credit quality of large multinational companies before lending to them trade finance facilities or supply chain facilities or foreign exchange lines to be able to do business in Africa. But what I realized from that, first of all, it was really boring. So remember, I was coming from entrepreneurship, which was really dynamic. No offense to any bankers in the room here. We love you and we really need you. But that was really boring for me. As you can see, I'm a bright pink kind of girl. So that was really boring. And then the other thing was that I know that when we were running our little business, one of the real challenges we had was working capital. Okay, I'm going to assume all of you know what working capital is, but if you don't know, because again, finance is a different language on its own, but just do a quick Google on the side. But basically, working capital is the difference between kind of what you have to pay your suppliers and the revenue you have, and that money that you're kind of lacking in between in terms of liquidity. That's kind of the working capital gap. Anyway, so we had some working capital challenges in there. And then I know that. So when I was working in banking and lending to these large multinationals doing business on the continent, I realized that we only lend to their African sort of offices if the large multinational, like maybe like the Coca-Cola USA, can then provide parental support to the small entity so that we can leverage the US credit grade in order to lend to like the Coca-Cola Uganda or Namibia or something like that. And which is really strange to me because, first of all, what if you don't have a big parent company that is based in the US and things like that? Who then lends to you? Where do you get financing from? You know, and then back to these sort of this environment that I grew up in with these small businesses that are just organic and building communities. Who lends to those people? So all of those questions always in my mind. And then I decided, okay, I need to do something different. And then I actually went and did my MBA. It wasn't exactly like that. Okay. This was my plan. Now I'm telling you the whole story. This was my plan. My plan was always to go into banking, into M&A, private equity, and then end up in venture capital. This was always the journey because I knew I needed to get back to entrepreneurship. But I also knew that you don't just go into VC, you have to kind of go through these steps in between based on the information I had at the time. You have to go through these steps in between. And of course, M&A teams, are really, anyway. So usually private equity teams will hire from an M&A teams because it's really niche and they want that experience. And then VC is usually even smaller than private equity. So they will typically hire from private equity is kind of how I was thinking about it. So then that was my journey. And then I started to apply for my M&A roles because I had decided banking was boring for me now. I need something new. And then I decided, actually, let me just see what happens if I apply for an MBA. And then I thought, oh, yeah, okay, let me just apply. And then I started getting my M&A interviews and going through the process. And then I applied, but it was just sort of like a throwaway little application. Turns out I got into the MBA program and I thought, oh, wow, okay, maybe let me study first and then I'll come back to this thing, to the M&A thing later down the road. And then I did my MBA. And then as part of the MBA, I decided, okay, I don't want to go into banking, so I probably wanted to maybe go into consulting, M&A, or directly into private equity, but let's see what comes up. And then the opportunity to join Newtown Partners came along, which Newtown Partners is a venture capital firm where I'm currently working. So they actually had a 3-month internship where the MBA course was then, I had sort of 3 months left to finish my thesis. And I thought, oh, this is great. Okay, let me just go and check this out and see what happens. And then, because they were, in the job description, they wanted somebody, and their thesis really was they were investing in blockchain, gaming, supply chain, and all these weird things. And I was like, ew, what is this? I don't know. And then I just closed that. And I remember I went back to that job description a couple of times until my advisor came to me and was like, listen, you want to go into private capital, maybe you should consider this. And then, I said, okay, fine, let me try this internship. And then I went and I joined the venture capital internship. And on day one, I kid you not, we had my first day. I was sitting at home in Joburg, and then I had my call to get sort of onboarded. And then the next meeting was with the CEO of a company called identity.com, and they do identity verification online. So it's basically an identity verification protocol based out of the US. And at that time, what they needed from Newtown Partners was to get a new go-to-market because they needed a way to repackage the product so they could go and get more clients. And that was the first meeting I sat in. Can you imagine coming from banking, like this really buttoned up and weird? And then we're sitting here like talking about go-to-market for an identity verification protocol. That was so weird and cool and different and exciting. And that day I decided, I said, you know what, I'm going to be in venture capital now. So Newtown, sorry that you only wanted me as an intern, but you're going to have to hire me now. So that's when I decided. So anyway, I stayed at Newtown and I'm still at Newtown right now. And very specifically, Newtown Partners is the fund manager of DP World's corporate venture capital. So now DP World is a large supply chain and logistics company, and they have huge port operations as well globally. So very much Newtown invests in supply chain, logistics, and healthcare. Again, looking back now, it's basically like I started as an entrepreneur with a zoomed in view and then zoomed out in banking to view the whole supply chain and invest in these players, and then kind of zoomed back into founders, but not just one, but different founders then playing and innovating along the supply chain, which is why I was telling you that sort of going forward, it didn't make sense to me all the time. But now looking back, it makes sense to me that, oh, you know what? It makes sense that I'm now investing in supply chain and logistics because I was just deploying, big money into corporates at the supply chain level. So, but then I realized that in venture capital, first of all, venture capital is a really, really, really niche industry, right? I always say that venture capital has really good PR, because if you look at the numbers of small businesses we have on the continent, I'm just going to focus on sub-Saharan Africa. There are more than 44 million small businesses in sub-Saharan Africa, not the whole continent. In 2023, venture capital did 800 deals. I think from 2019 to date, venture capital has invested maybe in 4,000 businesses on the continent. 4,000 from basically the beginning of venture capital in Africa to date. Now compare that to the 44 million small businesses just in sub-Saharan Africa. That is less than 0.002% of businesses on the continent that are being financed by venture capital. So coming to this realization that venture capital is a niche, and it's a model that works, but in a really niche way, that then pushed me to my next area of curiosity, where again, bringing me back to these entrepreneurs, that this community that sort of forms me and helped me form my view of the world, who are the building blocks of communities and creating jobs and sending the kids to school and all of these things with these small businesses. Where are they getting their funding from? Like, who is giving these people money? You know, just always asking that question in your mind, and then follow that curiosity. So now what I'm doing, the other hat that I have on, is that I actually was accepted into the 2X Ignite GP Accelerator Program, which is basically an accelerator program for emerging female fund managers to teach you how to basically set up fund and all these things, and to accelerate you towards setting up a fund. Because I am really, really passionate about supporting those women, founders and entrepreneurs who are changing our communities, but are not venture capital backable, don't have a huge parent company in the US or somewhere else, but are changing the face of the continent. And providing them with support, and particularly working capital, because I know that's a huge problem. Not only that they were dealing with, large corporates were dealing with working capital issues, VC companies were dealing with working capital issues. So it's been a thread across the way. And that's what I'm really, really, really passionate about. And that's why I wanted to tell you today about just that journey of finding your dream. And that sometimes you hear the stories of people who always knew what they wanted to do and where they wanted to go. That's okay. And if you're one of those people, that's brilliant. But if you also don't really know, then maybe just lean into your curiosity. Maybe just be a little bit curious and start to notice the patterns of your life and what you really care about, and maybe try to see, could this be my thing? Could this be my why? Because along this journey that I've started now, sort of trying to provide SME, lending to these female founders, which is really different, and from anything I've done sort of previously, but there's a huge need. But there's been a lot of questioning, am I good enough? Am I the right person to do this? Why me? Should I be in the seat? Should I wait? All of these questions that we all have in our minds, right? So I actually had a call with my coach a few days ago, where after a few sort of years later, bawling tears later of like, why am I doing this? Like, why do I think I'm okay? And then recentering myself, she reminded me that you know the right thing to do and you have the answers. You just have to, sort of stop listening to the outside world and do what you need to do. And that's why this session, I really wanted to share my story with you, so you can just hear someone else's view. Maybe it relates to your life, maybe not, but so that you can establish for yourself, how do I get alignment between my head, my heart, and my gut? Because in your gut, you know what to do. In your heart, you know what's really important for you. You know it already. But sometimes in your head, the numbers and I'm a bright yellow. What are they going to think about me? Maybe let me not take this investor call. All of these things are happening in your head, but you know what's right. You know what you need to pursue, right? So just being able to get that alignment through And then once you have that alignment, even when you're really, really, really scared, and when people are saying, no, you're too different, you're too weird, whatever, whatever, to be able to come back to, but this is my why. This is why I started, and to get back up and start again and continue and keep going. That's what I wanted to share with you all today. So just on time, I'm going to take some questions if you have any.
Thank you very
Go
much,
ahead.
Egla, for that insightful session. If we have some, I see Bunola has a question for us. Yes, Bunola, you may take it away.
Hi, I really enjoyed the journey into figuring your whole way to your career, but you knew what you wanted, just had to go through different places. So for me, my question is basically, do you find that it's like important to have a female mentor, specifically a female, to help you to navigate these doors? Because I feel like if it was like somebody else or a male, maybe they wouldn't understand that, okay, my overthinking, it is necessary, but it is not necessary, but it kind of is necessary because it's giving me different perspectives. So yeah, that's my question.
That's a really good question. And over my career, the first thing that I do when I enter any new space is I surround myself with an army of women, just like baseline. And actually, interestingly, I was having a conversation with someone not so long ago, excuse me, where they were like, oh no, but VC is a really male-dominated space. How do you manage to operate in the space? And it gave me pause. I was like, no, it's not. And then I realized, yeah, it is. There are only about 13% of women in positions of leadership in VC funds. There's an incredible lack of female representation in VC. But the reason why in my mind that's not top of mind is because I always surround myself with so many women who can support me and bring different kinds of insights that I stopped being aware of the facts that we are in the minority because I just have so many examples of female excellence. But I want to also say that it's really important in that army of women to have a few men to break that, to bring a different perspective. I have also a few good male sort of friends or mentors that I go to just get a little bit of a different perspective, because you don't always want the same, although women are not a monolithic being, we're all very different, but you want that sort of, even let's say, for example, I'm Congolese, right? Like my circle of people are not just Congolese people. Do you see what I'm saying? So try to look out for men as well to include to sprinkle throughout your journey for that different kind of perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lina, for Egla, sorry, for that insightful answer as well. And thank you as well, Bunola, for that question. And I see Sarah has a question. Okay, Sarah.
Hi, Egla. Thank you so much for your testimonial. It was really inspiring. My question is, what advice will you give to a lady who just started a business, who is still struggling with a working capital, doesn't have enough, and is probably just applying to her close friends or community, and is really trying to break from the barriers basically and try to expand the business? What advice can you give such a person?
Oh, goodness, so many things, but specifically on raising the capital, Sarah, or just managing the business perhaps, or more context a little?
Let's say perhaps managing the business as well, managing the business and raising the capital.
Okay.
I'm just talking from what I see my friends and myself. Sometimes, you can start something, you supply to your friends and so on, but you don't have the capacity, for example, the people to collaborate with, you don't have any partner. And also the challenge is also with capital. Sometimes you don't really have enough to employ someone. So, you can't bring someone on board if you don't have enough to pay them. You yourself, you're struggling with raising a capital. So yeah.
Okay. Super, super, super relevant question. And I completely, first of all, my heart goes out to you for, even chasing your dream and starting something, kudos to you. It takes a lot of courage to do that, number one. Number two, I'm going to say my advice is always try to go as far as you can before taking other people's money, but I sense that you already have. So then the second part of my advice there is then try to target a few angel investors within your local market, right? Maybe, I don't know, some senior women in corporate or something like that who are really passionate about what you're doing and what you're building, or tap some people in your network to find out who knows who, right? Trust me, just tap people in your network to find out who knows who. And then once you have your short list of people who could potentially invest in your business, right? Then go to them and just do sort of a pitch, like, this is, what I'm doing, this is what I'm building, these are the challenges I'm having. I just need, $10,000 or whatever to achieve this particular thing. But also, where possible, try to make sure that those humans in your short list are people that can also add value to you, right? So say, for example, you're building something in retail, consumer retail, and you can land someone really senior at, I don't know, like a big retail chain in your market, right? Then that person would be really, really useful, right? Because money is money. And if you just need money, you can also take money. But if you can also add that filter where this person can not only give you money, but now because they have that bought-in interest, they can become an advisor that is a free advisor, kind of, because they've given you money and now they have this shared interest that you guys are now sharing a vision, and they can advise you, they can open their network to you, and they can give you market access. That is a really strategic person to bring on board. But on the side of hiring people, first of all, I'm not sure if you have a co-founder, but getting a co-founder would be an easy way to get someone that you don't necessarily have to pay at a senior level to help you along the journey. But of course, the whole process of finding a co-founder is a whole thing on its own, because it's basically more than a marriage, kind of like Lena said, because you have to really find the person that has a similar vision and wants to go the long way with you. But so you can find a co-founder. But with junior staff, you can always get, I don't know, like MBA students or kind of undergraduate students or postgraduate students or something like that to help you in terms of internships, right? Then they intern with you and they help you for free. And then they just get the experience of having worked in a startup and having done something really cool and interesting and different. But I wouldn't advise that you try to look for people that you can pay at first. Definitely maybe try the intern route to be able to get around that. Because just you can't afford to pay somebody right now necessarily, and you want to build. So get an angel investor that adds a lot of strategic value and get you some free interns where possible. Even remote interns, if
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you. It's very informative.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Egla, for that. And also thank you very much, Sarah, for that question. I truly hope that you were also helped as you were listening to what Egla was sharing from her perspective as well. And once again, thank you very much, Egla, for your story. I believe it's a story of much resilience as well and courage as well from my side as well. So I thank you very much for that. And one thing that I took from you was that when you said that it is important that you have a clear vision of the dream that you have. You can have a dream, but also it's important that you have a clear vision of that dream so that even when things get hard, you are able to go back to that vision because you have the dream, but also you have a much clearer vision of that dream. So thank you very much for sharing that inspiring story as well. Thank you, Egla.
Thanks, everyone.
And we are about to, before we continue with the two last speakers of the day, I would just like us to quickly take a group photo before people start going away as well. So I think Okay, yes, Tech Team has already enabled me. So if everyone can please just turn on your video for just a short, brief time so that we can be able to capture a short group photo. Yes, I'm going to give you a few seconds to like prep yourself up. If you were maybe laying on the pillow or sleeping, just try to sit up straight, do something. And please turn on your video camera just for a short group photo that we can remember this day with. Okay, I'm just waiting for a few people to join us. You should see a prompt on your side asking you to turn on your video camera. If you can just press allow.
Anati, could you please maybe try that again? Because the prompt for us to allow, I haven't seen it pop up on my side. Thanks.
Okay, I'm gonna do it again so that, okay, we can try again. You should probably see the prompt right now on your screen. Just waiting for a few people I see. Okay. Okay, I think we are good to go. Yes, and we are good to go. Thank you very much to everyone for participating in that. And let us move on right along to our next speaker for the day, which is none other than Pabalelo Mahoro, aka Lelo, as fondly known. And Lelo will be speaking with us on everything that has to do with climbing the corporate ladder. I believe that many of us, if not most of us, are in the corporate space, whichever space that you are in the corporate world, we are in corporate. So Lelo will be speaking with us and engaging with us on climbing the corporate ladder, and will be providing us with some practical strategies for advancing in our careers, and also how we can also overcome various barriers that we might be facing or might face in the near future. So I'm very much looking forward to hear her insights and also on how to actually grow on a professional scale. So if Lelo is ready, without any further ado, Lelo, you may take it away.
Thank you. When Daniel approached me, I'm like, but I'm not in the C-suit. Why are you looking for me? He's like, I want you as a person, not the fact that you're in a C-suit or anything like that. So took a bit of a while for him to do some convincing for me. And then eventually I said, okay, it's fine, I'll do it. So I'm just going to speak about my own experience. I did prepare a few slides, but I'm not so sure if you want to go to the slide route or you just want me to speak from the heart. I think it always works when one speaks just from the heart. So happy Women's Day to everyone. No matter what tinta bafazi, what tinta you strike a woman, you strike a rock. And I have actually learned that as women, we are powerful beings. We are mothers, we are daughters, we are sisters, and we play many other roles where we are unsung. And the one thing I've actually learned to do in this so-called or navigating the so-called corporate space is to take up the space, really. Take up the space and follow my heart and follow my passion. It didn't always come so easily to me. I think, like most of the speakers, initially at the beginning, I was just overwhelmed. You don't know what to do. You go study a course, but you're not really sure. So yeah, I'll just speak about my journey and share a few tips, like I've already said. So, but then I think the one thing that I just wanted to start with was, if we had to define climbing the corporate ladder, I would say where one is really advancing through positions, either in your place of work or in whatever it is that you're doing. But basically, for me, it's about increasing your responsibility, either in your organization or, even if it's not in your work, wherever you are. Whether you work, you serve in an NGO, whether you serve in a church community. So for me, climbing the corporate ladder is being able to climb up and to rise and still be able to accumulate more responsibility and do all these other things besides doing your day-to-day job, and then there would be some benefits, I guess, whether it be like, your increased influence, your enhanced skills, if you get a higher salary, and hopefully some job satisfaction at the end of the day, which is not always guaranteed. But then the one thing as individuals or as women we really need to do is set some targets for ourselves. They say the SMART criteria. You must be specific, know exactly what it is that you want to do and what it is that you want to achieve, and have ways of being able to measure yourself in terms of what it is that you want to do and what it is that you're doing, and ensuring that you're also setting goals for yourself that you'll be able to achieve, and also something that is more relevant to you, and then also give yourself a time frame of when you'd like to achieve those specific goals. And I think most importantly, the one thing I've also learned is to ensure that I align my own personal values with my long-term career vision, or whatever it is that I want to do, whether as an entrepreneur or as an employee, or wherever I am working. And I think the other thing is continuous learning and development. And continuous learning does not necessarily mean that you must constantly be either you're studying full time, or you go to work, you study. You can always sometimes do the small extra steps where you attend workshops, where you do either certifications, where you form part of network communities, where you form part, or where you volunteer, where you are also volunteer your services, whether it's committees within your organization. You find that there may be things like the ethics committee, there may be things like the culture committee, there may be different types of committees, but then you reaching out and being able to offer your services or yourself to serve on those committees really grows you as a person or as a professional. So you need to be able to create those relationships and network and allow yourself, to open up to these other platforms. And for me, that's what has helped me grow as an individual or as a professional. I think the other thing is seizing opportunities or taking up the space. I will not forget the words of our former Miss Universe, Zozimbini Tunzi. She said women should learn to take up the space. And her words still resonate with me to this day. And I've learned to really take up the space. I don't have to always be invited. I'm one person that goes out and seeks for opportunities. I will Google, I will inquire, I'll go to a place, talk to people. I'm always looking for information. What is it that other people are doing? What is it that other women are doing? What is happening around me in the area where I am? What is it that I want to go into? A network, consistently engage with people. What's happening where? On LinkedIn, consistently searching for information on Google. Are there conferences? Are there exhibitions? Are there seminars? And just ensuring that I get that information, and where I'm able to go, then I go, especially if there are those that, there are those that come, then you're not expected to pay anything, just maybe have to pay for your own transport for you to go and show up there. And sometimes even at work, you may find that they say, okay, there's a career fair, there's an exhibition, form part of those initiatives. And that's where you're also going to be able to see yourself as an individual and as a professional grow, because you'll be able to either you talk about your career, maybe to young students at the university, you engage with them, and then you tell them what it is that you do. And that's where you're also able to identify the passion that you have for the work that you do. That's where, it comes through, and you're able to consistently explain and encourage others. And that's where you see yourself, even you glowing, you flourishing. And the more you fall in love with whatever it is that you're doing. And I think the other thing you also need to ensure is you find a mentor and you seek feedback. You cannot walk this journey alone. Have a support structure. Find a support structure. Create a support structure for yourself where you're able to. Don't always think that the support structure will come to you, or somehow somebody will reach out to you and say they'll support. No, it will not happen like that. You need to create that platform where you seek, where you make yourself visible, where you make yourself accessible to people that you would like. Especially, I always say, surround yourself with people that you would like to be like one day. Find ways to surround yourself with those individuals. If there's somebody that you look up into in your organization, don't be ashamed, don't be shy to go knock at on their door and reach out to them and say, I'd like you to mentor me. I'd like you to hold my hand. I'd like you to just give me advice. I'd like to know, how do you do it? How did you get to that specific position that you got onto? And then that really helps you a lot, again, both as a professional and as an individual. You will see yourself grow, and then you can sit with that person sometimes and be able to tick off. You write your goals on a list, and you can be able to tick off consistently. Okay, I was here, and then now I've moved here. Now I am here, and then you will see yourself grow gradually. And at some point, you may find that the person that you started with, that was mentoring you initially, is not always a person that will mentor you up until the end, because when you meet one person that inspires you or that grows you, then somehow I just feel there's some sort of automatic thing where you will definitely meet the next person who will even take you to the next greater height. And I've spoken about, the mentors, and I think the other thing is just ensuring that you display your own leadership qualities. And when I say display your own leadership qualities, you do not have to be like the next person. Be yourself. Be you. Be different. Motivate yourself. Inspire yourself. Inspire others around you. But just be yourself. I think the one thing we've seen, especially with women these days, is how we come out so powerfully when we are just ourselves. If you're a person that loves talking to people, that loves laughing, that loves engaging with, I am a person that loves dancing. And wherever I go, if there's an event and there's music playing, I'm not even ashamed to just stand up and get on the dance floor and dance. And that's how you find that you'll come across someone who say, oh, you love dancing. And that's how you start the conversation. You don't know who that person is, but all you at that point in time is you may be talking to someone, or you may be on the dance floor with someone who's either a CEO or whatever of whatever organization. And that's how you also network with those other specific people. I think the other thing is work-life balance. It's so hard. Like I mentioned when I started, we are mothers, we are sisters, we are daughters. We have so many roles, so many hats that we carry. But we sometimes, as women, neglect ourselves in the long run, or along the journey of of us trying to climb up these corporate ladders, or whether we are building these businesses that we have, we find ourselves where we neglect ourselves, we neglect our own self-care. You know, sometimes as a woman, you get those days where you just want to curl up and not talk to anyone, whatever it is that you're going through. Allow yourself that time. Allow yourself, take care of yourself. Don't neglect yourself, you know, be able to also focus on yourself when that time comes. And then for me, I think the call to action is, you know, goal settings, develop yourself as an individual, network with people, seek opportunities, find yourself mentors, and somehow there's always a challenge that will come along, but there's always the greater person who will overcome that challenge and find a way to strike that particular balance. It's not easy. No one said it would be, but find a way to strike a balance. You know, you're a mom here, you're a sister there, you're a daughter there, you're an employee, you're an entrepreneur, and I'm one of those who wear all these different hats. You know, I'm also a new entrepreneur, and not once in my entire life did I ever think that I would be an entrepreneur. But I realized that in my journey at work, I was stuck. And when I say I was stuck, I realized that I was stuck mentally. I was no longer in a space where I wanted to progress to the next level and the next level and the next level. I was like, I'm not feeling it. There's something missing. And it took me a long time for me to shift up here, to shift my mindset, and for me to be able to open up and realize that, hey, this is what I actually want to do. You know, when somebody once asked me, what's your purpose in life? I could not answer that question. It took me a while for me to go back and revisit myself and ask myself questions. And the day I found the answer to that question, I never looked back. To this day, where I'm a happy, jolly person. Wherever I go, just become myself. And you know, and I realize the more energy I attract, the more people I attract that have the same passion, and surrounding myself with like-minded individuals. And that's how it is for me where I am today. And I think I'll leave it at that. I think I've said quite a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lelo, for that. Before you just leave us, we might have some people who just want to ask you a question or two. So if there's anyone who has a question for Lelo on anything that you spoke about or related to what you spoke about, please drop your question in the chat box, or you can raise your hand and ask your question. Yes, our
Steven.
financial bunny has a question. Steven, you raised your hand.
Lela, for me, it's not a question, it's a comment. I'm just grateful to Daniel that he managed to convince you to actually join the session. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm so like one thing that you said is taking up spaces, actually going to the seminars, going on LinkedIn, you know, leaning in on the networking spaces, actually going out more, doing, I think all the speakers are talking about how hard it is, but actually, you know, what you need to do, getting yourself out there more. I think that was my biggest takeaway from your session today. So thank you so much to you and Daniel. Hey.
No, thank you. Thank you. I think let me just also add on to Sarah's answer. Sarah, I'm also a new entrepreneur. I started by selling to my friends and my neighbors. But then I looked for markets, and that's how I started. So I started with the small markets. The first market I remember I didn't sell anything. I said to the market lady, I'm like, how, I'm not coming back. And she's like, no, you're coming back. And then I went again the next weekend. Then I sold 4 items. I was like, okay, today I sold 4. She's like, good. Then come back next weekend. Then the next weekend, then I doubled my numbers. Then that's when I started seeking the information of going to these exhibitions, you know, where there's the food, because I'm in the food industry. If there's any exhibition that relates to food or whatever, I made sure I got the information, I registered, and then that's how I started. And then from there, honestly speaking, I'm growing. I've even met people, you know, it's like you meet this one, then next you meet this one, then next so you keep on meeting people that are actually within the same line of thinking, who have the same vision, who want to go forward just like you. And also find entrepreneurs network wherever you're based, and use those form of support structures. Believe me, you will not go wrong. Maloba Consulting for me opened a lot of doors. At the point when I did the course, I remember I was not, like I said, I'll just do it, I'll just see. But little did I know that I'll just do it, I'll just see, opened up my mind to where I am today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that.
More questions? Manola.
Manola has a question.
Yes, Manola.
Hello.
Hi.
So for me, my question was basically, let me get my notes. So it's, what's the most significant barrier that you have encountered as a corporate person-ish in your ladder, on this ladder that you're going on? What is the most significant barrier that you have encountered?
I think for now, I'm currently sitting at a manager position where I am, and I've been in that manager position for like 5 years. And that's where I said, for me, I was stuck. And I realized that I had to ask myself questions. Do I want to sit and wait for me to get to the next role, or do I want to do something as well for myself? And that's where the entrepreneurship journey started, because I asked myself questions and I'm like, I don't think I really want to move up to senior manager level. I don't think I really want to, then that's how I started expanding my mind, thinking, okay, what else can I do? And then for me, when I normally say to people, yes, I can be a manager where I am, but I'm the CEO of my own company. It might be small today, but definitely in the coming years, you will see it as a very big corporate or whatever. So that's how it started. And don't be stuck in a position for years. If you see that you're not moving forward or you're waiting for the next position, and I used to get so frustrated by applying for jobs. There's this position. Did you see? Apply. To a point where I had to say to myself, that's all you think about. That's all that preoccupies your mind, to say, you've applied for this position there, you've applied for this position there, but what are you doing for yourself? And the day I was able to answer that question of what's your purpose in life, that's where my thinking changed, and not waiting for the next position, not rushing to go send that application, that CV, all those things. Then I started thinking differently. And now I think more at a strategic level, because I'm running my own thing. Yes, I have a full-time job, but now my thinking it's slightly different. And the one thing is, when your thinking is different, when you sit in an organization where you work now, okay, during the day you're an employee, after hours you're a boss. They now sometimes becomes that bit of a conflict. You don't know where you fall. So it's just that. But definitely it's nothing that you cannot overcome. It's nothing that you cannot overcome. Thank you.
One more question.
Okay, Bunala.
So I'm like a student teacher, and this past 2 weeks we've been teaching learners about entrepreneurship, and I just want a little advice on how I can go, because the main goal that I want as I teach these learners, I want them to understand that you can be an entrepreneur. There's no need for you to just go into a career and be like, okay, I want to be this, I want to be this. But there are other ways you can expand. You can become an entrepreneur rather than just working for someone. So could you do you have a little advice where you can just tell me how to tell the young ones?
I have a younger brother who's a medical doctor. Then he left working in, I think, was it 2019? And then he started his own thing. And then he always asked me the one question, is like, dude, how are you comfortable with getting paid 12 times a year? And I always hated that question. I would avoid him consistently. And I'm like, hey, don't ask me that question. Hey, no, I've applied for a position wherever I'm going to get that post. And that's how consistently, each time he saw me, he's like, dude, how are you comfortable with getting paid 12 times a year? Look how much I'm making. Consistently, he would say that to me. And then that's one thing that triggered me. Am I really comfortable with just being an employee for the rest of my life? I looked at my parents who worked 40 years, 45 years, and then they come back, they retire. Then now at that age, they got their pension. Then my dad was like, he wants to start a business. I was like, you can't, not now, because you're going to be frustrating us. At that age, I'm like, no, please don't. But I allowed, he was allowed to do his own little thing. I was like, okay, use your skills, whatever you got from work, it's fine. But then I looked at them, I'm like, I don't want to end up like my parents. I don't want my kids to suffer the way I did, where consistently I need to submit a CV somewhere. When are we going to get to a point of us creating generational wealth for our kids? When are we going to get to a point of, as Africans, as Black people especially, when we leave university, a majority of us, we don't know where we are going. You're not guaranteed any job. And the white kids, they would leave university, they already know that there's a company somewhere waiting for them to just walk in and go and work. They don't have to go through that route. So for me, it's just changing that, creating that generational wealth so that our kids can also not come and suffer and, hey, this thing of a CV, guys, everywhere you go, then application, how many graduates do we have? How many of them are struggling? How many of them are standing at corners with billboards of hire me? When are we going to get to a point of us seeing our graduates just think slightly different to say, if I'm not able to get a job wherever, if I'm not even guaranteed, some go for 10 years, graduated, nothing, and they're still struggling, and the depression and all these things that they go through, it's a lot, it's too much. We need to be able to change that. And for me, I started with something, like I started with selling acha in tubs, and that's just how I started. People thought I was crazy going to town. I'd go deep downtown Cape Town with tubs and say, acha here, 20 rand, 50 rand, acha here. Even though I knew I have a full-time job, if you had to match the two personalities of me being at work and me being on the streets, you would not say, because then I'd come there, park my car, park in a different corner so that the other entrepreneurs there on the streets don't see. Then you walk with your stock and you do whatever it is that you're doing. Then you feel part of that sense of community and you're selling just like anybody else. But we really need to change that narrative. I'm taking too much time for the next speaker.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lelo. I can see that you're very much passionate about this, and I feel like everyone is also feeling your passion. Yes, so we just like to say thank you very much for your insights and perspectives, and also the strategies that you really shared with us. Those are some of the things that I also took with me, like also going out there, seeking opportunities, networking. That is also something that is very imperative and also big. And I also believe that is something that Maloba Consulting is also big on, which is building a sense of network, a community, going out and reaching out to other people. That is something that we need to do in each and every sphere. You might be in corporate, in an organization. I'm sure there are events that are happening there. Go out there, network with the people that you are surrounded yourself with, or you are surrounded with, and you do not know the relationships you might be building and what they can actually propel you to. So network, go out and seek those opportunities. Thank you very much once again, Lelo. And we have yeah, thank you. And we have our last speaker for today. Last but definitely not least, we have the awesome Faith Weston, and Faith will be speaking with us on the crucial topic of women's mental wellness. Now, I believe that this is something that is very important, and also some of the speakers who spoke before you, they actually echoed these thoughts that have a work-life balance, have rest. I like one thing that I took from Dina. She said that rest is not overrated, meaning that it is important that we also have this balance. So Faith, without any further ado, take it away.
Thank you so much, Anati. Yeah, no, I definitely loved all the talks that came before me. And, the common thread throughout all of them was mental resilience. That, if you're really going to go out there in the world to do something, to live your purpose, and to change other people's lives and make social impact, you need mental resilience. But that doesn't you can't buy that from a shop. You have to put in the hard work. And that's where I come in. So, my name is Faith Weston. I'm a life coach, but I'm also the founder of the In My Feelings mental wellness brand. We do therapeutic and fun, innovative games. So we use a game card model that focuses on human connection, conflict resolution, fun entertainment, business creativity, team building, as well as mental wellness. So I'm just going to share a few slides that we're going to be talking about today about women and mental wellness, what it looks like for different women. So guys, without further ado, let me just please let me know if you can see my slides. Okay, can you guys see the presentation?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so the first slide talks about the double-edged sword. Of course, women are amazing at multitasking. Who doesn't love somebody who can do like 10 different roles at the same time? But it's also our downfall because we are people that say yes to a lot of things. Everybody just keeps shoveling things our way. And we never say no because we still want to prove that we are superwomen. Somewhere there's like an ego thing with us women, you know, we want to do it all at the same time. We want to live our best life, but it burns us out. We cannot do it on a mental, physical, and emotional level for too long. And I think now we're at that point, I think a lot of ladies before we mentioned this, we're at that point where we want the soft life. We want the relaxed woman culture, you know, where we can just put our feet up, relax, and say no comfortably without having to explain why we don't want to do the other things that people are offering, whether it's in our homes, whether it's at work, or even socially. It's okay to say no. And then more importantly, it's important for people to accept it when we say no. Because I think now we're getting to a point, I don't know if anybody has noticed, but in 2024, I think there's a lot of fatigue at the moment. Everybody's just feeling it and they're pretty much trying to make it to the end of the year. And, you know, and people are burnt out. And most of those people that are burnt out are women because most of us are mothers. We all have different things. People have been taking time off at work. And it's showing also in the stats that women are not coping with being multitaskers. So here we're looking at the different types of women that you find. So stay-at-home moms are still working, contrary to popular belief, because I used to be a stay-at-home mom at one point in my life. And before I became a stay-at-home mom, I thought I'd be brunching, going out, doing shopping, you know, manicures. I had this whole idea. But all I actually did, in fact, is do a lot of washing, dishes, sweeping, school runs. I lost track of time and I spent a lot of unhealthy time in my gown. You know, leggings were the go-to type of clothes for a very long time. And one of the things that I learned from a mental wellness perspective was that the loneliness and isolation that comes with that. You get to spend a lot of time with your kids, which is great, but you don't get to see other adults. Because comes the weekend, you're still running errands, you're taking care of your kids, you say no to a lot of social stuff because you're burnt out, you're tired. You're literally working right through the day. And then you feel bad as a mom because you like your kids, but sometimes you're just like, I want to be alone. Then everybody makes you feel bad because you're a mom, you chose this life. So you have to be grateful, you know, you have to be show gratitude. And, you know, because you're doing all these things, you're tired and no one relieves you. It's not like someone's going to tag you in, you know, at 6 o'clock, somebody tags in and you're off. No, you're still doing bath time. And by the time you get to bed, you literally pass out because there's no way. You don't sleep peacefully. You pass out. And you tend to lose your identity because you catering to other people's needs. You forget about yourself. I mean, maybe you'll do your hair, you'll tie a bun if you care, and your nice clothes literally just waste away in the wardrobes because you don't have time to wear all those beautiful clothes. And there's little time again to take like a bubble bath, to just lie around and read a book because you're constantly on the move. And all of this eventually leads to some depressive episodes where you're now finding yourself asking, is this what life has to offer you? Will your life ever get better? Will your kids grow? And during that time as well, you're not eating well because you're eating standing most of the time. You're eating leftovers from your kids, the nuggets and all that type of stuff. We've all done that. And when your kids are sick, you're not sleeping well, especially if you have young kids and babies. It's very hard to sleep. And because of that, it does impact your mood. So you emotionally, you're not well, you're irritable, small things overwhelm you, you're not coping. And that also triggers a lot of stress. And we know that stress that doesn't, you know, come down becomes chronic stress, which means that now your immune system is compromised. And that's when you start feeling more sick, getting colds more often. And sometimes if it's done for long periods of time, like years, you can start susceptible to heart disease, high blood pressure, and all those types of disease. So being a stay-at-home mom is a job. And if you don't kind of find any balance in that, you will burn out. Okay. And then we move on to the working woman. So the working woman can be a mother or can be a single woman or a person that's in a relationship. Now we know as well that when you're in relationships or whether you're a mom, you have dual responsibilities as well. So you're managing your home in one point and you're also working as well. So like, again, you're not getting that time off to just relax, very little time to do nothing. And also currently with the new current working landscape, we see that a lot of people are taking work home. There's no ending at 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock is I'm going home to just change clothes and continue to do my work. So you're finding that people just don't even have time to cook or have conversations at home because you're trying to finish a project. And there's also the emotional labor that we don't speak about. That as a woman, people expect you to be nurturing, even in the work environment. You're the one dealing with the conflicts that are happening in the team, at home as well. You're the one that's making sure everybody's feeling okay emotionally, they're feeling supported. So you're giving a lot out, but not receiving much back because everybody's looking at you as a person as the anchor in the room always. And that can take a lot out of a woman, mentally and emotionally as well. And then there's also the microaggressions and the discrimination. So we know as well that as women of color, you face a lot of racism, gender issues, sexual orientation, and all kinds of different issues that you can encounter, especially in corporate, where you're constantly fighting your way through everything, demanding to be seen, demanding to take up space, from like having a voice, asking for people to give you advancement in your career. You're always fighting for your place. It's never very easy for you because people already have perceptions that you can't do this, you're not the right person. And if they do elevate you to that kind of position, there's always a question of, are you a diversity hire? And then everybody's looking at you like, what are you going to do in a position? How are you going to change the minorities, lives in your company and other people? And there's a lot of red tape for you. You can't really do much because people are also blocking you at the same time, even though you've advanced. So there's a lot of issues you still deal with, even though you are advancing in your career. And then we also see a lot of code switching for women, especially in male dominant corporates. You find that women have to lean into their masculine energy to be heard more, because when you're softer, people assume that you just can't deal with leadership roles. You're not going to be able to deal with conflict resolution. You're not going to be able to lead, especially a team that has males in it. So you find that women now kind of detach a lot emotionally and try not to be as empathetic, and kind of being a little bit inauthentic in some ways, just to kind of not have to deal with that issue of you're not strong enough to handle leadership. So we see a lot of that. And also pressure and expectations from families. The thing is, when you're working woman and you're very ambitious, it's very hard to balance that with being a wife, a mother, or having a partner, because that takes up a lot of your time, because it's not just you doing it at work, but you also take work home and people demand your time at work. You're putting in extra hours, you're checking on your team, and that can take a lot of your family time. And so people start getting resentful because you now focused on your career. You're not at home, you're not present all the time. But when you are present, you're very exhausted because you've been working, and it's hard to just try and please everybody when you are a working woman who's very ambitious about her career as well. And then in the same aspect as well, chronic stress sets in because you are stressed at home, trying to keep everybody happy, trying to deal with those responsibilities at work as well, dealing with your team, dealing with all the barriers that come from working in corporate. You're stressed out all the time. There's never a point where you're feeling relaxed because you're always on your toes. You're always trying to please people. And that can also lead to that chronic stress we spoke about, which means now you're susceptible to getting colds, like maybe 3 to 4 times a year. You have burnout, and you're seeing your doctor more times than you've seen them in years. And also, like I said, most of us are in survival mode. We're just trying to get through the day. We're just trying, it's no longer fun. You're not, when you get to work, immediately you tense up. Some of us, it's like a cue. As soon as you see the door, you see somebody just like, oh crap, this day rolls in. Most of us, Sunday is like our trigger day. As soon as Sunday rolls up, we're not smiling, we're not talking to anybody. We can feel it on the level that it's Sunday, Monday is coming up, So all of those things just point out that, you are burning out. And that's one of the major challenges that come with being a working woman. And then being an entrepreneur, this is a space I identify with as well. It's not that different from being a working woman and a mom as well. You're isolated because you're building a business. It takes a lot of effort. I know many people, when they say, yeah, be an entrepreneur, sounds very exciting because you're thinking you're building, but literally 24 hours in a day is not enough to be an entrepreneur. Because you, especially at the beginning when you're working alone as a solopreneur, you are doing everything. You're wearing all the hats in your business, and you are more flexible than a business that maybe is in a better growth state, has expanded, because people want to speak to you at 6 o'clock. You can't go off at 6 o'clock. You need to make time for meetings, virtual meetings at 6, at 8 even, especially with the different time zones. So you're never really off as an entrepreneur. You're always working. You're just trying to be flexible around your home life. And as well, financially, we spoke about working capital and all of that. Financially, it's hard because you're investing a lot of money at the beginning to just get the business off the ground, and you don't get a salary for quite a long time. And also getting in market access is very hard for us, because as women, once again, we spoke about that it's not easy getting funding. It's not easy doing B2B business as well, because you have to look a certain way. There's a lot of like politics in that too. So you're always dealing with some sort of barrier. You're always fighting your way through everything. You're working long hours, and then you try to do business. There's also another challenge. So it's quite exhausting on you. And that leads you to start doubting your abilities, and you start feeling like a fraud, that maybe this is not for me. Because why is it so hard for me to be able to get into these spaces, to be able to do what I love? And, and that kind of takes a little bit away of that motivation and that initial excitement you had about running a business. And like we said, you're missing out on family time. Everybody's upset with you. No one's happy with you because you're never here. You're not the same person. Was full of life, was very excited. You're just never there. You're a shadow. You're always on autopilot because you're too tired. You're feeling very oppressed by everything, your business, family, and you start getting irritable and very emotional because you're not sleeping well, you're not eating well. And there's very little self-care, and you don't feel beautiful, you don't feel glamorous, because you're not doing none of those things that are very important for you to make you feel like you're a person. And once again, the emotional labor also plays a role in women entrepreneurs, because once you're also dealing with family and you're also dealing with business, which means your staff, potential clients, you're constantly trying to make nice, support people, be a more empathetic one in all these roles, which means you're pouring out, but nothing else is actually coming in. So now, having looked at the different roles that women occupy, and I'm sure most of us occupy all three of them at once, we all can resonate with all those different women. So what do we really do to try and change the situation? And I think one of the things people don't understand about mental wellness is not something you just simply say, I'm going to do. You have to do it. You have to make that change. And that's the hardest part about mental wellness, is actually saying, this is what I want my life to look like, and then putting it in practice. And during that time, it's hard because you need other people's support, you need people to lean in, and it's going to be very disruptive because everybody, wants something out of you, and you're going to have to learn to say no. So these are the few solutions I came up that are easy to kind of execute with less disruption. And, you don't feel the pressure that you have to do them all at once. There's things that you can kind of start slotting into your daily life with minimum effort, like self-compassion. Admit to yourself and your family that you're not coping. That's one of the hardest things, for us to actually say it out loud, and then ask people to help us. Because we're so used to multitasking. People are used to us multitasking. When we say we're not coping, everybody starts like panicking because they expected us to cope and they don't know how to support us. So this is a conversation that you should have with family. It's very important to do that before you get to that stage where you're now admitted to hospital and they are forced now to take over your responsibilities. And also managing expectations. Most of us, because we have kids that are old enough to do stuff and we have partners, we've got to have that difficult conversation where we work as a team in the household, meaning we share duties like cooking, cleaning, and doing all this stuff. I know that there are some people still hold on to some traditional aspects of roles of females and males, but with the modern world and the way we are currently living, I think we can meet each other and compromise on some of these activities, because one person cannot do everything. And at some point, like I said, your body will decide that it doesn't want to do anything anymore. And then, people will be forced to join in and take over your responsibilities. So instead of getting to that point, let's have the conversation. Let's figure out how can we outsource more help, whether we need to hire somebody to come in, do the cleaning and the cooking, or we can just figure out between the two of us or the three of us how we can manage that. And most importantly, social connection. Serotonin is very important. It's a great hormone that stabilizes your mood. It works on your bowel function, enhances desire for sex, improves sleep, and promotes healing of any cuts and wounds. So it's very important for you to not only just talk to people for the sake of it, but your body needs it. It needs to release certain hormones to kind of regulate your body from inside. And it's important to talk to people. So just make the effort once a day, text somebody, hey, how you doing? Have a phone call, or go outside and just talk to people. If you're old school like me and you have a fence, just go say, hey, neighbor, let's chat for 5 minutes and just gossip about something, There you're killing two birds with one stone. You're getting some sunlight and nature, which also boosts your serotonin. And one of the things most people don't know is that sunlight in the morning does raise your cortisol levels, which do trigger a bit of stress response, but it's good stress, meaning it makes you more alert and you get a lot of work done when you're more alert. So that stress is good to trigger in the morning intentionally. So you can trigger stress intentionally to get work done because you get hyper focused and your body is just sharpened to get those things done. And then afterwards, you can relax and bring your body back to balance. So that's good stress that you can do for yourself. And other solutions are boundaries and accountabilities. Now, this is the toughest thing for my clients, mainly, because we all think we have boundaries until we have to reinforce them. Then it's crazy, Gashisa, it's hot because you have to hold people accountable and it's not pretty, it's not fun to say to somebody, this is where I begin, this is where I end. And if they overstep your boundaries and then you give them the first warning and they continue, you have to then enforce a consequence that you have put in prior to that so that they understand that you mean business. So obviously in personal relationships, it's harder because you live with those people and sometimes people are not understanding. But at work, you might find it a little bit easier because you don't get to take those people home with you. But it's so important to hold people accountable because if it impacts our mental health, we won't cope well. An important part of it is in order for us to feel good and feel better of ourselves is to have those boundaries so people understand where not to go. And my favorite one is journaling. Journaling is not simply just saying dear diary and writing your feelings, but it's also to create a pattern where you can start seeing what things in your life are triggering your low moments. And then to identify the people that are associated with those triggers as well. And then you get to see why those people trigger you and why does this thing really bother you so much. And sometimes those kind of revelations can lead you to go seek, professional help because the wound is more deeper than you think. Because most of the things that really are derailing our lives are subconsciously driven. And we need to bring those things up to light so we can understand why we're not where we're supposed to be, why we're feeling more low, why we're feeling more lows than highs in our lives. And the only way to identify that is to create a pattern. So journaling is the best way to create a pattern of your feelings and your highs and lows. And I cannot stress enough about nutrition. Food is so important for your health, not just your overall body health, but your brain health. And people really need to start understanding food, the best food to eat in the morning, in the afternoon, as well as night. Because if you eat the wrong food at night, it disrupts your sleep, which means that your body doesn't get to repair properly during your sleeping time, which means that you are more likely to be irritable, your motor skills will be slower, and you would just not feel great the next morning because even though you slept 8 hours, because you ate something sugary at night, it feels like you were running in your sleep because your body, the glucose spiked up. So it's very important to understand those things because even if you can sleep about 4 to 5 hours, if you've eaten properly and you've eaten the correct food, you feel well rested and you're more sharper and your performance is much better the next day. And also when it comes to exercising, 15 minutes of just walking uphill, up and down a hill is enough a day. And if you're like me, you don't like walking around outside sometimes, dancing, put gom on a piano, whatever your vibe is, and just have your own dance party. It really does help with your brain. It helps with dementia. It helps with all that type of stuff. And the most important part is it builds stress capacity, meaning it helps your stress threshold to be higher. So when you know, you're dealing with a lot of stress in your day, you're able to cope much better and make better decisions because your stress capacity is much higher. And we also spoke about rest and recharge. It's so important because your body cannot always be constantly on alert. It needs to relax and trigger different functions in your body that need to just be to bring that balance, because the sympathetic nervous system is for stress response, where you need to get out of a bad situation, and your parasympathetic system is to bring that balance where it tells you that everything is calm, you need to relax, which is what your mental health needs. And sleep hygiene, you need at least 7 to 8 hours of good sleep to have great performance the next day. And one of the things that we don't speak about in mental health that is related to it is sex health. Having sex does boost your happiness, self-esteem. It's great for bonding and serotonin. So it plays a huge part. So if you do have partners, make time, whether you need to schedule it. I know people don't like that. Life is spontaneous, but life is not always spontaneous. Okay, you still don't know the outcome of it, but just schedule it. Yeah, pleasure is very important, and self-care, spend time alone, dress up, make time to dress up, and also just spend time where you just focus on doing something for yourself, just yourself, not your partner, not your kids, not your friends. Take yourself out shopping, do things that make you feel loved and appreciated, right? And like I said, burnout is a huge issue with women. It is a form of exhaustion. It's different from stress. You just feel completely depleted. You feel demotivated. You feel emotionally detached. And you just don't have any care about all the things that you used to love before, which is a huge problem because your partner, your family, and everybody will get concerned because suddenly all of this becomes meaningless. And then it leads you to depression and it also leads to suicidal thoughts. So it's very important to catch burnout before you get to that serious point, because we know that once you get to suicide, it's very hard to work your way back from that. That means that your work takes, a dip, you can't work, you can't function as a mom, you can't function as a wife or a girlfriend, you can't function as a human being. And I can tell you that from my clients and, from personal experience and from family, coming back from that point of suicide, it's hard because it never goes away. The feeling is always with you. You have to actually just manage it somehow. And when you get triggered, you always worry, is this the final push? So it's very important to not let ourselves get to a crisis, but be more proactive when it comes to our health. And then just a little tip on stress management. The different types of stress that you can experience is hyperarousal, which is when you're feeling angry, agitated, and you're very restless. And one of the tricks that I love to do is called the physiological sigh, which is 2 inhales through your nose and an extended hail. So it's something like this. So the first inhale is deep, and then the second one is quick, and it's a long extended exhale. If you do this for about a minute or two, if you're having an anxiety attack or you're feeling very stressed, it lowers your stress levels and increases your oxygen levels within your body. And other options are lying down with a cozy weighted blanket, listening to soothing music if you've got the time, taking a warm bath, and eating comfortable foods when you're feeling very agitated. And then the second part is hyperarousal, which is a need for stimulation. So if you're feeling depressed or hopeless, this is a perfect one to use. I'm sure you guys know about the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, cold baths, and holding ice. So I'm going to just quickly run through this because I see we over time. And this last one, I'm just going to quickly just go through it because I think it's very important. All the solutions I gave you are great. You can try them, but we all know that implementing a new habit is hard and you have to be very intentional about it. And I'm going to share the slides with Maloba Consulting, and they can share them if anyone's interested. So one of the 3 ways to implement a new habit easily in your life is implementation intention, which is planning ahead on how you're going to do stuff. So if you want to do exercise, you need to plan ahead and say, this is how I'm going to do exercise on this day for this amount of time at this location at the beginning of every week or every month where your motivation is high. So when you say that to yourself and you write it down, you're more likely to follow through. And then the second one is habit stacking. Habit stacking means taking a new habit with an existing habit. So if you can't exercise and set out 30 minutes for exercising, maybe when you're making coffee or making breakfast, you can do squats. While you're waiting for the kettle to boil, you're doing your 10 squats. You can't do 10 squats. I've counted that, so you can. And so if you do that type of thing where you pair 2 habits together, that way you can get more done. and you can reach all your goals. And also temptation bundling, taking something that's lovely, like something that you find attractive, and something that you need to do, like taking a walk and eating ice cream. Maybe you can buy some ice cream if you love ice cream, and then you can combine that with taking a walk. So you're killing two birds with one stone, getting healthy and also getting yourself your favorite treat. So yeah, so that is the end for me. So I just wanted to share this with you guys, that taking care of your mental health is not that hard. It's actually quite easy, but at the beginning, it's very hard because you need everybody's buy-in, especially if you are a family. But just implementing the small things here and there, you can definitely see a change in the long term. So I'm going to hand back over to you, Anati. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Faith, for that wonderful and also insightful session. I believe everyone has also taken something for themselves. And if someone has just one question, because we're out of time, we're just going to take only one question. So if anyone has a quick question they want to pop through, or just a comment, please raise your hand.
I can't find the tool to raise my hand.
It's fine, Lelo, go ahead.
For me, it's I pay gym membership, but I never go. I struggle. So all the things that you've said, it's like I keep on saying, how does one? I spoke about balance, but one struggles to find that balance, especially of the gym. How do we get to that part of committing to saying, "Hi, I'm waking up," or 5 o'clock when I knock off, I go. Or in the morning, then I go. How does one strike that particular commitment? Because I feel guilty when the payment goes off.
No, I completely understand, Lilo. So the best way to do it is to create an environmental cue, meaning take your sneakers, your gym sneakers, and put them where you're going to see them every day. Literally, when you wake up in the morning. So where do you look the most when you wake up in the morning? Which room do you spend most time in? That's where you put your sneakers, or the front door. So when you try to leave, they trip you over and you're like, oh, there's my sneakers. I should be going to gym. So part of that creating new habits is making sure that you constantly see whatever the thing is that you need to do, like a physical representation of the thing that you need to do, because then it also brings that guilty element to say, oh crap, I need to go to gym. And eventually, you build a habit through that. So put your sneakers where you see them every day, not hidden, find, like right on top of your before you go to bed, just put them on top of your nightstand or something like that. Or set out your clothes where you can see them. So as soon as you wake up, immediately they're right in front of you. So you have no choice but to go. But it takes time, but be kind with yourself. It does take time. It does take practice. And yeah, just do that and let's see how it goes. That's the best, easiest one I can give you.
Seriously, I'm going to do action. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lelo, for that question. And thank you very much, Faith, for that response. I hope Lelo took something there and might be triggered to actually start going to gym. So yes, thank you very much. And I know one thing that I particularly took is what you said when you said that mental wellness is something that you actually have to do. It is that important that you have to do it, meaning that the more you rise in whether in corporate or in your role as an entrepreneur or a founder, it is important that you also take a more awareness of your mental health or your mental capabilities as well. So I just want to say, echo the words that you say, that it is okay to say no, basically. So manage your expectations, and knowing that it is also very much okay to say no if you are not able to do something. So thank you very much, Faith, for that very insightful session. It was very insightful. And with that being said, that brings us to an end of our event, or our session, if you may call it. And I must say, it has truly been an incredible day. We've had a wonderful lineup of speakers. From the first speaker up until the last speaker, we've really gained such insightful comments and insightful strategies as well that we can utilize as women who are on the holistic journey, as we titled this event. And with that being said, I just want to extend a heartfelt thank you to all our wonderful speakers for the day, for sharing your insights, and also experiences, and also your strategies that we can actually use to empower ourselves as females in various retrospects or in various spheres of influence that we find ourselves in. And I believe that each session has provided us with invaluable knowledge and practical strategies that we can be able to make use of in order to try and navigate our various journeys as women. And thank you also to everyone who participated in the comments. I saw a few comments, their hearts. I was like, I'm loving this interaction. Yes, and I saw people who were raising their hands, engaging in questions. These are such things that truly make such events very dynamic and truly special as well. So thank you very much for your engagement. And one thing that we would just like to echo is that this event or this webinar that we had is part of the community leg of Maloba Consulting, where we are dedicated to building a sense of community through mentorship, knowledge sharing that we just had, and also creating opportunities where like-minded individuals are able to connect. At Maloba Consulting, we believe that events like these are essential in fostering dynamic relationships and supportive networks that empower people or individuals to grow in their various spheres of influence. And thank you once again to everyone for being part of EmpowerHER 2024, where we took a dive into the holistic woman's journey and what it actually means to be on that journey. And with that being said, I would just like to say that may we stay connected, keep on empowering each other, and I look very much forward to seeing everyone in most of our events that we'll be having in the future. And with that being said, that is the end from me, your host, Anati Kovese. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. That was such a lovely session. I enjoyed every minute.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank
Thank
you.
you, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.